Hello.
Hi,
How are you today, Maureen? It's good to see you.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, doing good. I'm excited to be here. And Michelle has joined us as well. Hello, Michelle.
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to see who else is going to join us. I didn't get the list. I usually have a list ahead of time of who is registered, but I rely on Ayla to do that because I am hopeless at remembering where to find things. And I don't have that list in front of me right now. So I don't know how many more are joining us, but we'll just kind of chill for a minute and see who else joins. So Maureen, what have you been up to today and this week?
Today, mostly reading and a little bit of writing. So,
Nice.
yeah.
What are you reading?
What am I reading? A mystery novel, just nothing super exciting. It's set in Ireland, which I think is fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that is fun.
Mhm.
How about you, Michelle? What have you been up to?
I had to make a last minute run to our leadership morning meeting. I'm like the third in line in our department. So, of course, I had no idea what was going on or anything. So, I was just sort of like in the meeting, like, hi, my face is here.
Nice.
Yeah. And then helping some folks do some problem solving on a digital form they were creating and the process flow, and then helped someone else answer some audit questions, provide evidence for compliance. I'm at work, you know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Eric, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.
You're glad I had a chance to check it out.
Yeah. So I'm going to give like 2 more minutes for folks to join us. So we're just kind of chatting. What have you been up to today or this week?
Today's been pretty boring. I had a doctor's appointment this morning with a specialist. Nothing, just a checkup, nothing going on. And returned home to check on what's going on at work, which isn't a whole lot. And I've been pecking away at the book a little bit as I have a little downtime.
Excellent. That's good. Great. Ayla is getting ready to join us. And I saw Corey pop in for a minute and then pop out again. I don't know if he's planning to join us or not, but it's always really, really cool when he does. Corey's my business partner and Ayla is our operations director. She's jumping on with us today. So I'm going to let her come on board. Hi, Ayla. How are you? Good. We've got a good showing today, so I'm excited about this. Already we've got Maureen and Michelle and Eric and the two of us. So I'm gonna give like maybe 1 more minute. And I saw Corey pop in briefly and then pop out again. Is he planning to join us? Do you know?
That was me.
Oh, that was you. Oh, yeah, I see.
His name, like always. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, he doesn't usually join
um,
us, but I wondered if maybe he got a wild hair to jump in here and
sorry guys, if I got the excited.
you don't have to be sorry. I'm glad to see you here as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So what have you been up to today, Ayla?
it's only 8 a.m. So we all get my kids ready for morning and all that.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I had some blood work done yesterday, Eric. So kind of going through those sort of just routine checkups, just figuring out how things are and what's going on. So, and then this morning I worked a little bit on my current work in progress, which is my Claim Your Voice, Birth Your Book, which is my book midwife book. And then I've just been puttering around. If you follow me on Facebook, I posted an essay this morning. That would just I had some space and it was on my mind. So cool. All right. Well, we are at 5 past noon, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. And if people join us, they can just join us when they join us. So welcome. This is Ask the Book Midwife, where writers and authors and aspiring authors come together to talk about everything having to do with writing books, ask questions, share stories. I'm Fen, I'm your host, the book midwife. And it is great to see everybody. So we're going to open with just a quick round robin introductions. Tell us, make sure that we know how to pronounce your name. Tell us where you're calling in from, a little bit about you, and a little bit about what you're working on or what you're thinking about working on and what kinds of questions and concerns you want to talk about today. So again, I am Fen. I am calling in from Asheville, North Carolina, and I am here to talk about whatever you all want to talk about. And I'm just going to go in a clockwise circle in the screen as I see it. So Eric, would you talk to us a little bit?
Sure. So my name is Eric Donaldson, pronounced just as I said it. I'm up here in Connecticut, so same time zone as Penn, but pretty far away. I am a learning and development consultant for the corporate world by day and a creative by night. I've got a little bit of publishing history under my belt, and I am currently working on a writing slash art project that's been brewing for many years, and I'm getting some headway on it now.
Exciting. And are there particular challenges or questions you have for us today?
Um, I might have a question to fill in some gaps if we need it, but nothing burning at the moment.
Okay, gotcha. Fantastic. Ayla, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. I live in Alaska currently, so I'm very far away from Penn. The most far away you could probably get in the United States. My family were military. I am Penn's operation manager, assistant, just all the admin side of things, I guess you could say. I have 3 children, and yeah, I love doing what I do for Penn. It's the exciting stuff for me, and I say it's the boring stuff for Fen. So we work great together. And my pronouns are she, her.
Thank you. We love Ayla. She's amazing to have on board. So thank you for being here today, Ayla. Michelle.
So my name is Michelle Roebuck, no relation to Sears and. My maiden name was Cowell, no relation to Simon. All that good stuff. I am calling in from Georgia, so I probably am one of the closest to Ben, geographically. I have been a writer since I was very tiny. My grandmother actually saved a book that she helped me make. There's edition of one copy of the book, and I have it in my possession now. So that was over 40 years ago that I wrote that one book. So I'm working on the second one now. Woo! As far as questions, I was looking back at my notes, and I have my foundational bookshop with Fen and Corey in November of last year. So I'm still plugging away little piece by little piece at that. And I've got some questions like around sustaining that energy and keeping it going.
Gotcha. Thank you. Awesome. All right, Maureen.
My name's Maureen Mashinsky, and I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, on the banks of the Mississippi River. And see what else. Oh, I do like energy healing work and soul retrieval work and intuitive readings and things like that. And I've been working for quite a few years, I don't know exactly, on this book project, and it keeps like morphing. First it's fiction, and then it's memoir, and then it's self-help, and there's some poetry in there and whatever. And so and then I set it aside for like a year or two, and it's been calling back at me, and I really either want to finish it or completely set it aside. And I feel like I'd like to finish something. And so that's kind of why I'm here. And my questions really, well, one of my questions is around like the form. Like, could I like do like a mashup of like memoir and self-help, or would it be better to do them as separate things? So that's kind of where I'm at.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Greta has just joined us. Welcome, Greta. You are just in time. We were just doing a quick round robin, introducing ourselves and what we are working on and whatever questions or challenges we're hoping to talk about today. So, and we have just finished. So it's your turn if you're up for it.
Thank you, Finn. I'm sorry, I was having a little technology. It took me a while to get my Zoom meeting loaded. I am a writer that hasn't been writing, and your Facebook writings have been inspiring me.
Aw.
And I looked at a couple of the books that you had helped publish and was impressed with the covers and how you had done them. And I have a book in me that I started about 10 years ago that I've never finished. And this friend of mine just finished hers, and it's like 900 something pages. And we were writing at the same time, but totally different kinds of books. And so I would like to get that book out there to the world, whatever. There might be more than one book related to that topic. So, but I have not been dedicating time to sit down and write every day, not even the morning pages, like from the Artist Way. So I just wanted to hear how your process is and how it works, and always other people in the group, learn from how they motivate themselves to be disciplined to write.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm hearing three kind of big questions, and actually they're all interrelated. And Michelle, you're the one who's had the most experience with Corey's and my offering, because you've been through our foundation bookshop, so you know what it's like to get that clarity of that foundation statement and how that can kind of hold your vision for you. But obviously writing a book is a big, complex project, so there's a lot beyond that as well. Maureen, I hear from you that you're still kind of in an early stage, right? Or have you written parts of what you're working on?
I've written a lot of stuff, but it's all over the place.
Okay, yeah, right. So for you, go ahead.
I have this fantasy that I could just like take a thread and like quilt it all together, and if I just pulled the thread, it would all of a sudden come together and make beautiful sense and be done in a month. And I kind of feel like that's probably not really realistic.
1 month is pretty ambitious. I did work with one author who her strategy for writing is to take a week or two and go to Mexico and like eat mangoes and just write nonstop. I love that strategy. And if that's feasible for you, consider it. But that's not how most of us, what our lives are like. So thank you for sharing that. And then Greta, I hear you saying that you also have ideas for a book, but it's really just like how are you setting yourself up to actually get that work done, which is, a big thing. And if you follow various writing groups and writers' advice, there's so much advice out there that just amounts to, well, just do it.
Right.
That's right. Just do it. Just right.
All the other million things I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I love this. So really these questions are all really related. Michelle, because you have been through that foundation statement process, would you be willing to kind of share with the group what that process was like, how it's helped you, what it hasn't helped you with, like what it, just kind of any advice and insight from your personal experience with that in gaining that clarity? Because, and I'll just say one more thing before I hand that to you, Michelle, which is just that the big thing that stops most authors is not having the real clarity at the beginning of the process. Like, where do I begin? What am I doing? Where am I going with this? So Michelle, I would love to hear your experience with that.
Sure. So, going back and looking at it, I've got it bookmarked in my journal, and I've got the recordings that were saved in the cloud. And what I've had trouble with the most is
Actually, before you go to the thing you're having trouble with, which I definitely want to hear, but I wonder if you would share with them what that foundation is. Like, I mean, you can tell them the actual words, but like how that works and how it's like what it's supposed to do for you, if that makes sense.
I think so. Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. No.
It's been, because it's been almost a year. It's a little challenging to get all the way back to it.
And I'm putting you on the spot, so don't stress. I was just thought maybe they would like to hear from somebody who's actually been there.
Yeah. So I do know that I really enjoyed it. I do know that showing up, not knowing what to expect, that there was very much, I was met where I was at that point in time. And then I was given this permission to be there, right? To not have to be where I thought maybe I should be, right? And so Fen, you and Corey met me there at that time and space and listened to what I was trying to achieve, and then helped me figure out, what does that foundation, if this is where you're starting, then what are the things that you need to do from here, without it, because it was meeting me where I was. It wasn't a canned sort of thing that you could get out of a box or out of a book of saying, here's your step-by-step. Like, if anytime I read a book, I'm always having to figure out, okay, wait, where am I in this process? Am I like even before the start of this book, and like this book is starting further along than me? And that's what I liked. I think that's what I liked a lot about that, and understanding what working with you all would be or could be like, and just really getting some of that set up, so that then when we did the Magic Roadmap session bookshop, then I had something to sort of start with, right? Which is in the title, foundation. Am I
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm gonna want to hear the challenges part. I'm just gonna put a few sort of frames around that, so that and thank you, Michelle. That was exactly, I wanted to hear it from you, like what your experience of it was. And so what we're talking about, the foundation statement, is where we have found, Corey and I have found, that everybody we work with needs this, whether you already have a draft or whether you're just getting started, whatever stage you're in. And what the foundation statement is it's your who, it's your what, and it's your why. And so a way to think about this, and Maureen and Greta, Eric, I would encourage you, like right now, while we're here, be thinking about, first and foremost, why do you want to write a book? So there's levels of why, right? It's, what is the change that I want to see in the world? Is there something I want to change out in the world? Is there something that I want to change in my life? If it is in support of your work, so Maureen, as I think you said, an energy worker, did I get that correct? Yeah. Are there things that you want to share with the world that will be supportive of your work, so that people understand how you work, right? What are the things that I want to change out there? What are the things that I want to change in my own life? And that helps you create a through line. Once you understand your why, it's easier to understand what needs to go in the book. So and then the next part is your who. Who are you writing for? And most of us will reach audiences broader than we think we're reaching. And I'll give you an example. Shannon Varner Alexander, that's Bonnie Bodacious. Her target audience is women in their 40s to 60s who want to claim their lives and their power through self-expression. And she, though in her work, sometimes the people who come to tell her that her book or her work has changed their lives are 20-something young men. Sometimes they're 60-something gentlemen, right? So, so just because you define your target who doesn't mean you won't reach other people, but defining your target who is really important for you in claiming your voice and how you're going to approach this audience. If you try to reach everybody, you will reach nobody. So it's really important for you to think about who your work is going to appeal to. Who is it that you want to help the most with your book? In one case, somebody we worked with, literally her audience was her daughter who had been adopted at birth, as in she was the biological parent and the child had been placed for adoption, and they had reconnected as adults. And she literally just wanted this story to be there for this daughter so that she would know her own history and her own story. In discussing that, we realized there was a much broader audience, that anybody who was related to the experience of adoption, whether adopted children, adoptive parents, whether it's biological parents, that they could all gain from this story. But by targeting that one particular person, she was able to really claim her voice and so the foundation statement, going back to that, it's your why, it's your who, and then ultimately it's the what. And it's the very high level what of what does this book need to be about in order to achieve my why and in order to reach my who. So that is what our foundation workshop, bookshop accomplishes with our authors. It's also a gift I encourage you to go ahead and give to yourself. So I hope you've been kind of making notes about that and take some time to really think about the answers to those questions, and then see if you can formulate a sentence out of that. Something like, my book will help these people by doing these things, the what, right? So that I can achieve my vision of whatever that big why is. And when you have that statement, now you have that, we call it the foundation, because this becomes the foundation of everything that you're writing. It helps you gain clarity around what to leave in, what to take out. And it helps you remember that this is just one book. It's just your first book, or maybe your second or your fifth, but it's not all of your books. So you don't have to cram everything in, just the things that fit that mission. That's basically your mission statement for your book. So that's the foundation statement that Michelle worked with us to develop for her book. Do you feel like reading your foundation statement to us, Michelle?
So I don't know if I have it. Like I have a statement written at the bottom of one of the pages, but I didn't think to pull that up ahead of time. So
She lit her computer up, but she's gonna pull it up for us. While Ayla's looking for that, I'll talk about, and then the next piece is that roadmap that Michelle talked about. That's basically, it's your outline, which is formed out of your foundation statement, but it's a much more detailed bullet point. It needs to contain this, it needs to contain this, it needs to contain this in roughly this order. And also your writing plan. So this is actually going to answer some of Maureen, what you're working with, especially and Greta, with just kind of staying on track. It's not the whole answer. And that's why I'm going to come back to you, Michelle, because I want to hear what those challenges are. But it is what sets you up for success. So there's a lot of debate in the writing community about pantsing versus planning. Pantsing is when you go by the seat of your pants, you just sit down and you write. And if that works for you, then let it work for you. But if you're getting stuck, there's a good chance it's because you don't know where you're going and how to do this. So what an outline does is it actually frees you up, because it shows you the blocks of content you need to create. And you don't even have to do it in that order. You are now free from having to figure out the right order to write the things in. You can just fill in whichever bits you feel like each day when you sit down to write. Your writing plan, and we do this, our full program, the Book Alchemy program, is it's a 6-month program. It's 90 months. 90 months. We're not Tolkien here. That's not what we're doing. It's 90 days to your manuscript and 90 days to your published book. Obviously, there is variation, but that's our target. That's the framework we work within. And what we do is we sit down with, once you know your outline, you can make a rough estimate of what your word count needs to be. And you can build out a writing plan that tells you, in order to achieve my first draft within this target amount of time that I've set for myself, these are the amount of hours I have to put in. Here's how I'm going to do it. Here's how it's going to work around whatever else is happening in my life. one really important key for those who have trouble staying motivated, like me, is to create time limits. So don't say I'm going to write for 2 hours every day. Say I'm going to write for 1 hour, 5 days a week. Don't say I'm going to do it until the book is done. Say I'm going to do it for 5 weeks and then I'm going to take a break. Building in those breaks helps your brain stay motivated because it knows at some point, especially if, like me, if you have the demand avoidance, which my son informed me recently, and it makes sense. Apparently all humans do. That's why we're so successful as a species. We just have it all in differing degrees, right? But if you're struggling with demand avoidance, creating limits like that can help your brain be okay with following the rules for a little while. And then they can break them later because you give them permission. So those are some things that you can do to set yourself up for success. Those key things, your foundation, your outline, and your writing plan are your key assets to set yourself up. But as Michelle has shared with us, that isn't the whole answer. So Michelle, would you talk with us about some of the challenges that you're facing right now?
Absolutely. So Ayla did send me the thing, and I had actually found it like maybe 5 seconds before she said it in the chat. So we were working on it right at the same time. So do you want me to read that out real quick?
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. My book foundation. I will use my book to breathe life into those who want to move out of stuckness towards something better by teaching them how to take time and space for creativity, which will lead to my ultimate goal of establishing an expansive, energetic, and physical space for nurturing curiosity.
That's every bit as beautiful now as it was then.
Right? It feels very like, it does feel expansive, right? It does feel energetic. It does feel like it creates space for that curiosity and creativity. So, so the challenge for me has been, when I moved into the early part of this year, I began working with an additional editor, and our goals changed a bit. And I think, especially looking at this foundation statement, I think what happened was that I realized that there was sort of some stuff to get out of the way first, right? And so that changed from this book, which I think still is a thing that will come into being, to realizing there was something else that needed to come first. There was a different book that needed to come out first. So and it goes back to exactly what you were just saying about this is your first book. You don't have to shove everything into it. That's what I was trying too hard to do. I was trying too hard to put too much into this. And so the book didn't know what it wanted to be. So I've adjusted. I do have my outline. So I do have my thing that I'm working on. But what ended up happening is because of that switch, I sort of lost connection to the soul of the book. And so when I hit some personal roadblocks over the summer of just a lot of things going on at work, a lot of things going on with children, a lot of things going on with family, and book got sort of pushed to the bottom of it. So I'm rolling again in terms of, like you said, having a consistent practice. I actually did finish my first draft. I think it was a little bit longer than 90 days, but I did complete a first draft as the result of our using the magic roadmap, right? So let me pin those wins there. I did get the value that I was looking for. It's just then, that it was that changes. It's navigating those changes. And so now I've got the consistency with writing down, and I've got my path that, is a revised path, but I've got my path, and I can pick and choose and fill in the parts of that outline. And it just doesn't have the same energetic resonance. So it's like, it's sometimes sort of dragging myself to the keyboard to do it, because it doesn't always feel like like the energy doesn't come as easily. Does
Mhm.
does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. So let me ask you a question about that. You've got a first draft.
Mhm.
And where you're struggling now is on coming back to that draft and molding it further into the manuscript that you want. Is that accurate?
Yes, because we had to make so many significant changes to the outline that I started with to the outline that I'm moving to.
I see. And that's because you
Mhm.
decided that this other book was wanting to be born first.
Yeah, and it was like a dissection of the original idea. It was part of the original foundation and magic road map, but it was too big. It was too much. So I'm like extracting a portion of it and setting the how to aside because it still is vital, and bringing just the memoir piece is got its own shape. That's
Gotcha.
what I'm bringing out.
Okay. And let me ask you in regard to your foundation statement, what would you change in the foundation statement for your new book, or does it still apply?
So a lot of it still applies.
Mhm.
It's instead of like the breathing life into other people is still exists in the same way you were talking about the adoption memoir, right? But
Mhm.
it's in a leading by showing you how I've done it way
Mhm.
versus in an instructive way where I was trying to make it showing you how I've done it and here's how I instruct other people if they want to follow a similar path. I'm bringing out the here's how you do it too. Not completely, but
Yeah.
it's a much smaller section. It's not the focus of the book. So a
That
lot of that, but a lot of it does still, it's still how I do those things.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate you sharing all of that and sharing those details. So a few things are standing out for me. First of all, I applaud you for being willing to see that your book needed to be smaller. And by that, I don't mean smaller in importance. Often we do try to do too much. We try to put our whole life, we try to put everything, all of our however many years of life we've had into one book, and we often do it a disservice. So by you recognize that your foundation statement, in particular your why, is better served with something with a smaller scope. And I love that you got that first draft out because now you have all that raw material.
Mhm.
Now, what I'm hearing is that with this new scope in mind, you're facing some blocks around sitting down to actually extract that material and recreate the draft. Is that an accurate statement?
It's close. I can do it, but I'm having to I don't want to say force myself or make myself, but there is more of that energy of going, okay, I got to do this, instead of the energy of, oh, this is what comes next. This is what comes next. The cadence of the energy or the feeling of it is different.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So there's a couple of things that happen, and this is a really common block. There's two things that I'm hearing here that may or may not apply. Michelle, you'll know whether they apply for you or not, but there's two things that we often see happen. People who write books, the people that we work with, mostly are visionaries. And when I say visionary, there's a lot that means. It doesn't, for years, I hesitated to call myself a visionary because that sounds like such a big-headed thing to say, but a visionary is a way of being in the world, and it's not better or worse than other ways of being in the world. Some people are outstanding at executing on a vision, and visionaries need executors because we're not good at execution. And so if you have and it really is a brain wiring And there's, there's degrees of it. Some people are I've worked with people who are so far on the visionary side of things that they almost can't even function in their day-to-day life. And I know people who are so far on the execution side that they just give me a task and I will do it, right? And then there's all this wide range in between. And for people who tend toward the visionary side, most authors do. Most of us wouldn't be bothering if we weren't visionaries at some level, right? Because visionaries see big ideas, visionaries see things that don't exist yet. They see things that haven't happened yet and want them to come true. We're the daydreamers, right? And the thing about the visionary mindset or the visionary brain wiring, it often causes this problem at that second draft stage. And the problem is, one, we're being forced to go back to ideas that are already out there. And it is our wiring to want to move on to the next big thing. It is really hard to go back and deal with something that's already been done. We don't want to do it. That's an executor's job, not a visionary's job. And the other thing that happens is that these big visionary brains are off on the next thing. And the old thing no longer feels as important and urgent as it did, because it's not new to us anymore. It's still new to the world, but it's not new to us. So this is a really common thing. And I often tell authors that for me and for a lot of the folks that we work with, that second draft is actually harder than the first. It's the hardest thing they will do. It requires so much simultaneous big picture and detail work all at the same time that it is incredibly overwhelming. So that's your validation that where you are is not unusual. Yes, please, Michelle. Oh, you're just, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the second thing, or not the second thing, but maybe some tips, some how-tos, some ideas, right? One is print out that foundation statement again, Michelle. Edit it if you feel like it needs to be edited, but make sure that why is crystal clear and put it somewhere visual. This is going to help remind you that, yes, this is the dull part. You don't want to do it, but it's serving this bigger vision that is powerful. And serving that powerful vision is how visionaries do the stomping through the day to day, right? So make sure you've got that foundation statement posted. For most authors, simply having a time of day that you promise yourself 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, however much time you feel like you can promise yourself to sit down just to look at it is enough. Remember to take the pressure off of yourself to complete it in a particular time frame. I will say that a lot of authors find at this stage that they end up needing larger chunks of time at a time because it takes so long to get into the draft and know where you are. But even just starting will help you, because even if all you have is 20 minutes, and even if all you do is reread what you've done and make a note here or there, it's still progress and it will still get you there. And then obviously, one of the reasons that authors do work with us in our full program is having that ongoing support is invaluable. There's somebody to hold your hand. There's somebody to call to help you get through your emotional blocks. You said you had an editor. Did you have some developmental editing done, Michelle?
Yeah, they're actually working with me. They helped me do another outline, or adjust not another outline, just adjust the outline to make sense with the change in the format. Mm-hmm. So we are in a place where I have because it works for me, because in school as an athlete, if a coach was telling me to do it, okay, I got it. All right, I'm there. Because I had that single assignment that I needed to do. So right now my single assignment is to deliver, 500 words per day, because we worked through a several week period of figuring out what was sustainable and what was reasonable. Yes. This wasn't an arbitrary, 500 words a day. Yeah. This was a plan we worked into and up to, and 500 words a day, 5 days a week, working off the outline that we have.
Good. Mm-hmm. And are you extracting from your existing draft for some of that? Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, good. Doing it, no reason to make it harder on yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is that at this stage, having an outside visionary perspective on your first draft and getting feedback on that so that you know where to focus. Somebody who can come in and say, look, the big picture thing is, this, and this, start here. That will help you sort of create those steps to getting to that next draft. And again, that's something that, that's in our program, and that's why we do it, because that's really helpful. Okay, so that was a lot of sort of overview of the writing process. I would love to open it now. I know, Greta, you had some specific questions. I would love to know if you have any questions for Michelle or for myself or for anybody in the group. And same thing for you, Maureen.
My question is, from the first time you thought of writing a book, whatever book the people are on currently, how much time? Like mine was 10 years ago, longer than that. And then I just laid it down, picked it up, laid it down. I did go off to Guatemala to write for a little while, and I did a lot of writing. But then when I got back, the who and the why and the what is really hard to when you have this idea in your head and you're writing something kind of magical. And that's why I was interested in meeting up with you, Finn, because you have that magical quality. I have a really hard time asking, like I understand why it's important to know your audience. I'm not arguing against that. I think it's great, but I don't know how to figure out even those basic questions. And I don't know if that book is going to turn into something else, because I've picked it up and set it down and picked it up and set it down so many times, and I haven't picked it up for a really long time. So that's my question, is what's the length of time? Does that matter? And how did other people manage to answer those questions?
Great. Thank you. Let's start with sharing. How long, for whatever book each of you is working on currently, how long ago did you start? How long has it been? Anybody who's willing to share?
So I know
Eric, I can't hear you.
Was Eric?
All right. Yeah, we're not hearing you. Oh, there we go. There you go.
Zoom. So the book I'm currently working on, it was about 14 years ago. I had the initial idea. It looked very different in many ways when it started to where I'm at now, but the core idea of it has sustained itself through putting it down, picking it back up again, and working on other things. So in my experience anyway, and it's partly because I'm sort of a round robin creative, putting something down, going back to it later is certainly viable for me anyway.
Got it. Thank you. Michelle, go ahead.
I like that Eric said round robin creator. We call them serial passions at our house, because we have serial things that we keep cycling back around to. And so the book has been a thing like that for me. And the original epiphany that really is at the core of the work I'm working on now is about 11 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been time. And I was working on other books before then that are still in various stages of who the hell knows what.
Pregnancy.
Yes, still in gestation. Maureen, did you want to share?
I think that I've been working on this somewhere between like 8 and 10 years. And I pretty much work with sort of the pants style, like the seat of my pants, and I just write stuff and then I try to weave it all together. And I think I'm at the point now where I really could use a good outline. And again, it went through all these different iterations of different forms. And so I've got, pages and pages and pages, but not a total flow.
Got it. Thank you. And for me, I always have multiple projects going, but the one that my focus on right now is the Claim Your Voice, Birth Your Book. It is the book that is basically my book midwife process in a book, self-serve. And I have been working on it. Ayla probably knows more specifically, but I'd say a year, maybe a year and a half. Do you remember, Ayla, when we started? And I say we because Corey's working on a companion volume on the publishing side.
I would say about a year,
Yeah,
give or take. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
A lot of start and stop too. Like I feel like you'll work on it really heavily and then just completely put it to the side and don't even think about it for a solid month or two.
Yeah, that is true. And we preach those rest periods to our authors as well. And just to kind of put some more context on that, I have a different book that I've been working on off and on for 5 or 6 years. I have a book of short stories that I put together literally in about 3 days. I already had the short stories, but I pulled them together in the book form in about 3 days. And if you look at, historically, great, like I always talk about J.R.R. Tolkien because I love the Lord of the Rings series. That was a lifetime in the making, but I think 12 years of focused effort. So it can go all over the place. I talk about Carl Jung because his work is so influential. He didn't publish his first book till he was 54. I don't know how long he worked on it, but he wasn't even, publishing before then. And then he has this massive body of work that is massively influential. So the length of time isn't really all that relevant to whether your book is going to be important or whether you can get it done. All of that said, however, the authors who go through our program typically are done in between 90 days and 6 months with their manuscript. And then it's 6 months to a year before it's published, usually shorter, usually more like 9 months. And the reason for that is that when you have the structure and the support at that level, it helps you to stay focused and to get through. And the reason Corey and I aren't doing it that fast is because we don't have us. There's something magical about having somebody on the outside helping you create that framework and helping you stay supported through sticking with it. That said, I never want to imply to people that you have to have us or anybody in particular. Obviously, there are areas where nothing happens in a vacuum. Even if you produce an amazing manuscript all by yourself, at some point you need copy editing and proofreading. There's always going to be, you need outside support. It is not a one-person show. That said, the more you can create effective structure for yourself and effective support for yourself, the more you can get to that finish line. And one of the things I used to not really focus on how long it took people to write, because I know the creative process cannot be, it's not a wild horse that can be tamed, right? It's a wild horse that stays wild. But that said, one of the things that happens with work when it draws out over years and years is that you change, you grow, your life changes, your focus changes. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, that can mean that it never gets done. And by keeping it contained within 90 days or 6 months, or, maybe for a larger or more fiction type world building, whatever type thing, like Lord of the Rings, you might need more space for that. But if you don't contain it in some way, your odds go up exponentially that it just will never get done, because you're a visionary and you're on to the next thing already. So I love how, creating a container enables you to get it done, get it out there, and move on to the next thing. So that's kind of some thoughts along those lines. Greta, I also heard you asking, how do you decide who to write for? Did I hear that question correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And we only have 10 minutes left. So I I would love to kind of workshop that with you. Maybe maybe if you want to come to the next one, which I think should be in a couple of weeks. Do we have one in 2 weeks, Ayla? Do you know? Yeah, on the 6th. We could workshop it some more, but just kind of to give you a high level. First of all, you know, your audience can be you. So you mentioned the work that I do on Facebook. And I used to fret about whether I should even bother sharing some of the things that I share, because they really are there for me. They're whatever, like when I'm preaching to y'all, I'm preaching to me. Like whatever I am saying, that's the lesson I need to hear right now. Literally, you can be your own audience. What do you want to hear? What do you need? What's the magic that your life is
Right.
called?
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt like I was doing that. And then I judged myself for that. And then I was like trying to figure out, was anybody else going to be interested in this? Because I'm super interested in what I'm writing about. And then I would try to have conversations with people about it. And then I'm like, no, I should go back to writing it down. So I definitely, I have no idea who or my target audience would be. I think that's what you guys, if I worked with y'all, somebody else would, you get so lost in the writing that you lose perspective.
Mhm.
So I have no idea who would be interested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, Greta, you know what, why don't we, and Ayla will follow up with you after, why don't we schedule a little bit of time for you, me, and Corey, and you can tell us more about your, what you're working on. And we can maybe help you sort of tease out that who a little bit and see if, answer your questions about the program, see if there's a fit. And just for you all, for your information's sake, there's kind of levels of, not levels, but there's pieces that you can work with us. So we have our full program, which is you will have a book at the end of the program, right? And then the way that Michelle worked with us was there were some key workshops, for that foundation statement, for the outline, for the writing plan, that we worked together on. And then it's, sort of more or less self-serve from that point. There's a few other things. We actually have a strategic offering that we just created. We're just releasing. You all are the first people, other than like one email outside of the Book Alchemy group, to hear about this. It's called the Book Alchemy Blueprint, and it is all of your key like strategic pieces, the key workshops, and it comes with a deliverable, so you have it all like neatly contained, and it will walk you through the rest of the process of creating your work. So there's different ways of working with us. Greta, I would love to have that conversation with you and see what makes sense and what might be a good fit for you, and kind of help you answer some more detailed questions. So if you're up for that, I'll have Ayla reach out and schedule that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Maureen, before we close, we have a few more minutes. I want to make sure, do you have any questions from this conversation you'd like to see us address?
No, I don't think so. Michelle, I appreciated your sharing about the way your book project divided into two, because I kind of wanted to do the reverse. I wanted to mash them into one, and that's making me think maybe that's not ideal. So I appreciated hearing that. Thanks.
The process you talked about is almost exactly what I've been doing for like the last 25 years. So like you kept saying sentences that have come out of my face before. So if that gives you any, I don't know, more motivation, then.
Yeah, thanks.
And I would encourage you all to reach out to each other as well. If something came up for you, if you have questions, if you just want companionship on the journey, if you are interested in that, Ayla has everybody's contact info. Obviously, we'll want consent. So if you would like to connect with somebody, connect with Ayla, and she'll check for consent and all of that, and we'll get anybody connected who wants to be connected. Or you can talk to each other in the chat box. Right now.
Yeah.
Like literally, you can just message each other's your email addresses right now. And then finally, Eric, any questions coming up for you from the conversation today, or thoughts?
I guess it's I think I'm primarily here to be in the energy and the soup of the people getting it done. I think when you and I talked, it's that community that has been very helpful for me in the past to keep motivated and keep going. So even if I'm on a good path and don't have any big open questions, it's still helpful to share with people. So glad to be here.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. This was really amazing. I appreciate your energy. I love that you were all here. I would love to really, any of you who would like a little bit more time to talk about your project, let me know, let Ayla know. And obviously come back to the next one. These events are free and they are a great way to support each other and, just kind of stay in that energy of working on what you're working on. Any final thoughts, questions, comments before we close today?
Just enjoyed being in the group. Thank you, Finn.
Me too. Maureen?
I guess I would like to reach out and find out more about working with y'all together. So I'm not really sure what the next step is to do that. So
Okay. I'll have Ayla reach out to you and we'll go
Okay.
from there. Yeah.
Cool.
I see folks are putting email addresses in the chat. When we close this, that chat will go away. So if you want to grab email addresses, do that before we close. You can just copy and paste them for yourself. And again, you can always reach out to Ayla if you have questions. And to me, obviously. But Ayla's much more organized than I am.
And I'll send a follow-up email just thanking everyone for attending too. So you'll have my email address in your guys' inbox if you have any questions as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for being here today. This has been absolutely delightful. I would love to see each and every one of you again, either privately or at the next event. And you know where to find me. So this has been Ask the Book Midwife, and we'll talk to you all next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right.
Yeah.
Bye.